Welcome to the UIAAA Connection podcast. Hometown Ticketing is proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the UIAAA Connection podcast and to provide schools nationwide with the best options for digital ticketing for their events. Visit their website at hometownticketing.com to learn how they can make digital ticketing possible and simple at your school. Thank you to Hometown Ticketing for their exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection podcast.
Welcome back to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch Hunter. Today we have as our special guest, Amy Robinson, Director of Athletics at South Sevier High School in Monroe, Utah. Welcome to the podcast, Amy.
Hey, thank you.
Let's have you begin by sharing with our audience here in Utah and across the nation where you grew up, where you went to college, those types of things, your first job.
Yeah, you bet. So I grew up in Mount Pleasant, Utah, a tiny little town. The high school there is North Sanpete High School. Mm-hmm. And after I grew up and was a gym rat, grew up in the gym, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on, and went to college at Snow College, which was just right down the road from me. When I was at Snow College, I worked as a student athletic trainer for the 2 years that I was at Snow College. And then
what years were you there?
So I was there 98 through 2000.
98 through 2000. So the only reason I'm wondering is my daughter, I'm trying to think when she graduated. Let's see. I think she graduated in 98.
Okay.
So I think she was a cheerleader at Snow.
Nice.
During the same time.
Cool.
Would have been Andrea Hunter, but then, well, it would have been Andrea Hunter then. Now she's married to her husband, Eric Kerr. So now it's Andrea Kerr, but obviously you didn't cross paths because the name's not ringing a bell.
Right. Well, I wasn't there until fall of 1998. So she probably, if she graduated in spring of 1998, we probably just missed each other.
No, I think she graduated high school. I'm sure it was 98.
Oh, then I'm sure that we.
And I think that I think she was down there for obviously the 2 years.
Yeah.
And then she ended up getting married, and then her husband hauled her off to Nebraska while he played football. So.
Okay, wait. So she married a Kerr?
She married, well.
KJAR?
Yeah, but it's not one of the Kerrs from that area, but it's one of the Kerrs relatives.
Okay. Because because that's my mom's name is Kerr. And so all the Kerrs in that area, I'm actually related to.
Well, then that means you're obviously related to my daughter, because I know they have a bunch of Kerr relatives down in that area. So anyway, I didn't want to interrupt. So continue. So you're at Snow for 2 years, and then.
Yep. Graduated there and then went down to SUU, where I was an student athletic trainer at SUU. And for the next 2 years, was a great time down there. Worked with lots of different teams and programs. My assigned position, where I was actually paid as a student athletic trainer, was track and field. So I got to travel with them indoor season, outdoor season. So that was kind of fun. And then graduated in physical education, emphasis athletic training. And, then I just became a mom at home, and I was a mom at home for a really long time. So didn't come back into the education system until I think this is my 6th year teaching. So started coaching before that, but yeah.
All right. So let's talk about your youth sports opportunities in Mount Pleasant. Maybe not as many, but I'm sure there was programs there for girls to participate when you grew up. There.
Oh yeah, there was plenty to keep me busy. In fact, it was sometimes I think now, it's such a great thing back then because I always played a sport, but none of them overlapped. So as soon as one got over, we started the next one. And then we started the next one, and I didn't have to feel like I was trying to do 3 different things at once. So I come from a long line of tennis players. So my dad actually ran a summer program. And so I did summer tennis all growing up. And then I also played volleyball all growing up. In fact, it was neck and neck when I got to high school, what I was going to do, if I was going to do volleyball or tennis. And I ended up just just hanging in there with my dad. So, which was a good thing. It was such a great sport. So I did tennis, and then I played basketball. That was actually probably my passion out of all three sports that I focused on in high school was basketball. And then I played softball, and softball was a great thing to do. And I had a blast doing that. I played it used to be called Dynamites. That was like our summer travel team, kind of like the club softball that they have now. So I played on that for a couple years. And anyway, just as long as I had some sort of a ball in my hand, I was happy.
Very good. So this would be a good time to ask you about your famous father. At least your father's famous in UIAAA circles. So maybe you can make that connection, because I was not aware of this up until about 6 months ago. And I should have been aware, but Big Rich told me. I said, oh, I had no idea. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
No, that's okay. You know what? I love my dad. My dad is John Erickson. So longtime member of UIAAA, Hall of Famer. He was longtime coach, athlete, athletic director, principal. And, when I left high school, a lot of people haven't made that connection since I've started up in this athletic world again. And I'm okay with that. I do love him, but I want people to know me for me and kind of learn to respect me for, what I'm doing, maybe not necessarily the name that I come from. So, but he is phenomenal. And I will talk about him a little bit later, because of him, I feel like I am who I am. And because of how he taught and the example that he was, and the attitudes that he just enforced in the classroom, at our home. I mean, attitude was everything. He had a quote on his board the whole time he taught at the high school. And, life is 1% what happens to you, or whatever the percentages are, and 99% what you do with that. And just kind of teaching you that, you can always look at things and learn and grow, and you don't have to be a victim of circumstance. So
very good. And while we're on the topic, then let's slide into our next question to talk about some of the mentors in your life. I'm sure you'll mention your father, but talk about him some more, and then some other mentors that had an effect on you.
Yeah. So for sure, first and foremost, my parents, my dad and my mom. Seeing my mom, I think she gets kind of, she was always in the background. My dad was super busy, super active. Even when he was in high school and in college and playing college basketball and things, she was just the quiet supporter. So watching her play that role really taught me a lot about how to support and how to play a role. And then my dad, really just his example. I still will call him up and bounce ideas off of him. He has way more experience than I have, and I need his wisdom a lot of times. And I'll say, hey, I have this situation. What do you think about this? And just to get that perspective is super invaluable to me. Also, Cheryl Hadley, she is an athletic director at North Sanpete, and she was my teacher and coach. And, I think the world of Cheryl Hadley, and I think I look up to her, and I actually called her when I joined this world also and said, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Do you think I'm crazy? What do you think? And just her encouragement and her friendship and her mentorship means the world. And then also a couple other, Rich Barton was really instrumental in me just feeling comfortable stepping into this position, and really encouraging. He is on speed dial on my phone, because he's usually one of the first, hey, I have a question. And even with his new position, he immediately gets back to me, whether it's through email or text. And so I'm just so grateful for him. And, our history goes back a little bit farther. When I lived in Cedar City going to SUU, I was next door neighbors with his mom.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. Mary Jo Bates. And I love that lady. So,
that is a small world. That's incredible.
Yeah. So that goes back. And then, I got to mention one more mentor, because I don't think I would have even stepped into this world if it hadn't have been for Brett Beagley. So he's our principal here at South Sevier High School. And He contacted me when I moved down to the Richfield area, which was about 8 years ago. And I had been a volleyball official for about 12 years. So I'd been in the volleyball world for a long time, in the officiating world. And he called me and said, hey, I mean, I remembered him as a coach, but I didn't really know him beyond that coach official relationship. And he said, hey, I'm taking over the volleyball program at South Sevier High School. And do you want to coach with me? And I said, I played tennis in high school. I play volleyball and I go and travel and play tournaments with all my lady friends and I play in leagues, and I know the rules, but are you sure you want me? Because I grew up playing tennis. And he's like, yep, I want you. And so because of him, within a couple of years, through his encouragement, heavy encouragement, he said, Amy, you need to get in the classroom. And then after the classroom, and I was still coaching, just with his encouragement, I kind of took this step as the athletic director at the high school. And he's still just a really great supporter to me.
How long have you been the AD then at South Sevier?
Yeah, so this is my first year as the head athletic director. I've been Boyd Price's assistant athletic director for 3 years. So
okay.
Something about me is when I jump into something, I want to do it. So when I said, okay, I'll do the athletic director route, I feel like I could make a difference there. I decided, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to get certified and I'm going to, go through all the right channels. So I jumped right into taking classes and all that.
Perfect. Let me ask you a personal question before we continue. What's your biggest failure or disappointment, and what have you learned from it?
Oh, I've thought about this. And I came up with a couple of different ones, and one professionally, but I'm not sure that that's really what you're talking about. But I think one of my failures, I have 5 children, and something happened when I was pregnant with my oldest that was beyond my control. I was in a bad car accident, and it caused a lot of health issues with me. I ended up being life flighted, and consequently, my baby, my oldest, is okay. She was born healthy, perfect, beautiful, but she's had some health conditions because of the car accident that I was in when she was born, because I lost a lot of blood. So she didn't have the blood supply that she needed and things like that. Right. And so I feel like one of the biggest things that I've had to realize was, what, if something is out of your control, you can't blame yourself for it. You have to let go. You have to be okay that you're not okay sometimes. And also, I think that experience, even though it was one of, I felt like a failure kind of over and over again as she deals with health concerns, but I've learned grace, I've learned patience, and I think we are who we are today because of those things that we've gone through. And so I don't think I would change it. I mean, I don't love going through it, but I don't think I would change it. So
understandable. And I will throw this extra part in. When I say I know what you're going through, I certainly wasn't in an accident as bad as yours, but as you may or may not be aware, the weekend of the quarterfinals in football, that Friday morning, I was on my way to lift and then go to see my grandson play, and was in a car wreck, totaled my car. Some girl was going to Alta High, and of course, I don't think I was hurt nearly as bad as you, but I still feel the effects. Of course, I'm a little bit older, months later, but that's it. Being in a car wreck, never having been in one until just recently, is very, very traumatic. So my heart goes out to you.
Yeah, kind of a crazy thing. And, on a little bit lighter of a note, kind of in athletics, one of my fails, I was at a basketball camp my sophomore year and playing point guard and getting hammered at summer camp. You just get hammered and bringing the ball down the court. And I was so frustrated. I totally lost my cool. The girl was, she had stole the ball from me multiple times after she was kind of, all over me. But then, so she's bringing the ball down, and I thought, you know what? And I just lost my cool. I thought, I'm going to go for the ball, but I'm just going to take her out and go for the ball at the same time. And I did. And I got a technical foul, and I hated that feeling. I was so glad they called a technical on me, because I hated that feeling of being out of control. And I vowed right then, I will never play out of control again. I will never let my emotions get to me. And, on the court, I never have let him get to me again, because I never wanted that out of control feeling.
That's good. That's a great story. Thanks for sharing that. Let's talk about, so you've been in AD basically for 4 years.
Yep.
And I want to know from your perspective as an assistant, now the head AD, just in the 4 years now, I realize the obvious answer is going to be COVID, but let's throw COVID out. Even in the 4 years that you've done it, what have you seen as some of the biggest changes from when you first started to now?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest changes has been implementing a couple new sports. Girls wrestling this year, implementing girls wrestling has been awesome. It has been such a fun thing to bring to our school. We only have 5 athletes, but for those 5 athletes, they are passionate about it, and their parents and their families are passionate. And so being able to bring that in and trying to balance, okay, equal time on mats and equal practice places and equal mats, even, like our boys have a really nice mat, and we have to pick up our girls' mat actually tonight from the state tournament. And so
okay,
just trying to get all of those things in place has been really fun. And then implementing competitive cheer has been a really fun thing. So I just think it's always changing and growing, and new coaches kind of coming in and out and doing trainings and things like that. So it's awesome.
let me ask you this. Do you think because you went to high school, and I'm guessing a similar sized high school, it's been easier for you to teach and be an AD at the same size high school? Or do you think because it's a different high school, it's been a hindrance to you? I'm interested in your outlook on that.
You know what? I actually think it's been a really good thing. Because I grew up as a tri-sport athlete, and I know the benefits of being involved in extracurricular, and not only academically, but mentally, emotionally, and physically. Graduating in athletic training, I know all the physical benefits of a multi-sport athlete. And so having come from a school that's similar in size has been awesome, because I can talk to the kids about, you guys need to play 2 or 3 sports. You need to be involved, and it's a good thing, and it's healthy for you. And if you want to go on to play, the college coaches are going to wonder what other sports you play. It means you're coachable and teachable, and you've had more than one person coaching you. And anyway, so I think it's been a really good thing.
That's excellent, because that's the thought just came to me, so I thought I would just ask you. Let's talk for a moment now about your journey with the UIAAA, the Utah Association. So 4 years ago, you didn't know any, well, you knew about being an AD because of your father, but you decided to take that step. So how did you become involved in the UIAAA? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, my first thing is when they came to me and asked if I'd be interested in doing this. They knew Mr. Price was going to be retiring, and they wanted to get some years under him before he retired for the assistant that would take over. And so my very first exposure is I went to the conference, one of the conferences in St. George. And that was really great. And I was able to take some of the law classes and some of the other things that actually really quite scared me. But I don't think they scared me as bad as when I went to the national conference this year, because I know more now and I've been working it for longer. Now talking about the legal aspects really scare me, because I think everything just overwhelmed me at that point. And so I didn't really know any better. I just thought, okay, I guess I better make sure I have my T's crossed and my I's dotted. But now that I understand a little bit more, I'm thinking, wow, I really better cover things.
What year was your first conference?
So I went down, I want to say I had signed up for the 2020. I think I went down right before the COVID year, and I only did a couple of classes and I wasn't able to stay. And then 2020 hit, and then I've been since then. So.
Perfect.
But what's interesting is, as the UIAAA has been such a great thing, but so have I ended up taking a couple of those core classes because it was right during COVID, online through the NIAAA's, online classes. So that was kind of cool too, to be able to meet with athletic administrators from all over the nation in those classes.
So let me ask you, how close are you to getting that certification?
So I am a certified athletic administrator. And so my next step is working on is certified. What is it? The
CMAA. Yes.
CMA. Okay. Yep. See, I'm learning. So, and I went to one of the classes at the national conference that talked about earning your CMAA and what I can do about that. And I've been toying with some project ideas. So I'm almost to the point where I can say, okay, I think I've narrowed it down, and contact somebody to say, hey, how does this sound? Am I on the right track? I thought I would maybe visit with a couple of you guys at the UIAAA in a month or two.
Let me ask you this, Amy, because I'm interested. And part of the reason I asked this is my very first conference. This is back in '97, but it was also in Nashville at the very same facility yours was. And I joke about this, and I've said this before on some other podcasts. I was lost the whole time I was there. As a matter of fact, when we went back to Nashville in 2007, it was till the end of that conference till I could find my way around. But I'm interested in your take. It's your first national conference. It's in Nashville. It's the most attended national conference ever. So I want you to share your thoughts with our ADs here in Utah and across the nation about the benefit of that. And then maybe talk a little bit about the UIAAA grant, because I think that's been a huge thing for us here in Utah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, it was one of the most phenomenal conferences that I've been to. Education, non-education, athletics, whatever. It was really great. And a couple of really good things. Yes, I was lost in that hotel. I think I discovered a new area of the hotel the last day we were there. I thought, how did I not even know this whole atrium existed? Like, I had no idea it even existed. But the classes that I were able to attend with all of the people from around the whole nation, that's just really, you get so much knowledge and so much diversity and variety. And the lessons that you can learn there, you can't match that in any other conference. And then the speakers and the special events that they brought in and things like that, really, they were quite incredible. In fact, I came away with, I drafted a huge letter and sent it to our school board, just thanking them and for allowing me to go to that conference, because it's out of state. So I had to get special approval, and I'm missing more than 3 days of school. So I had to get, all of the things. And I just kind of outlined all of the classes I went to and what I learned in each one of those classes and what my focus is going to be on moving forward, and the connections that I was able to make with people that are not only athletic administrators, but some at the district level, some at high school level, some at middle school levels. So it was just one of the great things. And I couldn't have done it without the UIAAA. Our district is awesome. They are phenomenal. I love them. But it was because I had that little bit extra grant money that they thought, yeah, we'll send her. And they were super supportive. My school was supportive, and my district was supportive. And so I'm just really grateful for the UIAAA for allowing that first step to happen. Because now I know, you know what, I want this on my radar, and I'm going to have to figure out a way to plan and try to make it happen again.
Very good. So I know you went to a bunch of workshops, and I know at least one class. So share with our audience, because you have the opportunity to take 4 classes there. Which classes were you able to take at the conference?
Yeah, I think I took, I'm going to have to look back at my notes because I don't even have those in front of me. So
Right.
The one that I actually wouldn't have even signed up for, but Richard Barton reached out to me and said, hey, you should take this, was the teaching class. So that way I can.
I'm familiar with that.
Yes, because I had the best teachers in that class, right? So that was a really great one. I was able to take a helmet class, like a helmet reconditioning and equipment class. I didn't know a lot of things, and I came back with a lot of information that I went straight to my football coach and said, hey, what about this, 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 and this? And he's like, yep, I do all of those. And I thought, oh, that is so great. I didn't know that. I didn't know if we have a way of tracking it. I didn't know any of that information. So that one was a really valuable one. And just a couple of the breakout sessions that I was able to go to, I went to 2 different ones that were the women athletic administrators breakout sessions. And those were really valuable. Just learning from some women. Sometimes it's a world, and I've even seen it just even in these rural communities, that they're just not used to having a woman in that kind of a leadership position. And so if you go and you talk to a fan and you have to, kind of manage that situation or things, it's been a little bit of a transition, but everybody's been really great here. They just have never had a female working this before. So we're getting there.
So let me ask a follow-up, because I know obviously we've been trying as the UIAAA to get more females involved as athletic directors. And I think at least over the past couple of years, we've made some strides that way. But I'm interested because, well, obviously I know for the people that are not inside yet that Monroe is a very rural community, very smaller Utah town. And so I'm interested to know, have you had any issues, or maybe you haven't had issues, but I realize that in a more conservative, smaller town in Utah, they may not look kindly on having a female AD. So speak to that.
You know what? I have had a couple incidences. It's just been a process, especially this year, kind of taking over as a head athletic director, just laying things out. Hey, this is how I want to be organized. This is how I want to do. These are the requirements that you need to have. And I've had a couple of coaches that have been around for a while that are great, but some of them are started to maybe bypass me and either go directly to Mr. Price, because he'd been athletic director for so long, or even to Mr. Beagley, the principal. And, kudos to them, because they just turned them right back around and said, well, have you visited with Amy about this? And, she's the one that's in charge of this and this and this. And so it's been really good. I've had to deal with some fans, and it's all members of our community, and they're all passionate about what they do. And we love that they're passionate, because they're creating passionate kids that want to be involved. But just kind of getting it out there that, this is our standard, and we are part of this community, and we stand for something bigger, and we're not going to put up with poor sportsmanship, and we're not going to put up with yelling at the refs. And in fact, here's a little funny side note. One of the first games that I went to when we moved down here as a family, I wasn't teaching, or I wasn't coaching yet or anything. We came to a game, and it was a rivalry game, and our fans were nuts. They were just crazy, and they were yelling at the refs and standing up. And I turned to my husband and I said, this is not me. I am not sure that I can send my kids here, because this is so far from who I am. And, lo and behold, now I'm the athletic director at that school. So it's good.
That's some great insight. Thanks so much for sharing that. Let me ask you this. In your 4 years, what is one common myth about being an athletic director that you'd like to debunk?
You know what? That a woman can't handle that situation or any situation. So, I've gone up to the really mad fans. I've stood in between a 300-pound man that wanted to charge the field, and just being calm. And, I understand where you're coming from. You're super passionate. I really want you to watch your daughter or your son play and participate. But in order to do that, I need you to stay sitting down, and I need you, So I think that's just a common myth, that a woman can't handle that, because I think she definitely can. And in fact, in some ways, it's good. It's a good balance to have both, females working with males, I think.
Very well said. Very well said. Let's finish up with a couple. Well, no, let's go to another question before we finish up. What's the favorite part of your job?
You know what? The kids, they will always be the favorite part of my job. Sometimes I walk down the hall at school and I think, I get paid to do this. I get paid to be here with these kids. Like, I love it so much. I love the kids. I love being their cheerleader. I love when they look at me on the sideline, because I'm there to everything, and they just get excited that I'm there. So that is definitely my favorite part. That, and when I took this position, my husband talked to me, and I had started and taken over the tennis program, and had taken the tennis program from about 7 or 8 athletes to 25 athletes, and just created this organization that people wanted to be a part of. Right. And my husband said, it's now your job to coach the coaches, and it's your job to help them create those exact programs that are building, that athletes want to be a part of, that their families want them to be a part of. And so I think it's kind of a cool thing.
Excellent. Now let's finish up with a couple of questions. The first one being, you have 2 suggestions for a new athletic director, and I don't consider you new anymore because you've been to a national conference. But from your perspective, if you could tell a new AD to follow these 2 suggestions in order to be successful, what would your 2 suggestions be?
I think stay balanced. I think that would be the number one suggestion. Just stay balanced. It's a really easy life to have it all encompass your whole world, right? And it can swallow your kids, and it can swallow your family. And I think that there's something to be said about staying balanced a little bit in the athletic director world and with a home balance. And then the second thing I think is kindness matters. I think if you can go into situations, and whether it's dealing with coaches or angry parents or athletes or any situation that you're going to deal with, I think kindness matters. And if they know you care about them, they're going to be more prone to listen to you and respect you for what you need to do.
Very well said. We'll finish with this, Amy. What question should I have asked you that I failed to ask you?
I thought about that one also, and I don't think you failed to ask me really anything. I mean, it was great. Maybe one of the most challenging things, that we're dealing with right now in the school, that might be a fun thing just to hear from other people in future podcasts, so that we know, oh, hey, they're dealing with the same thing we are. Maybe I could reach out to them. I don't know.
Well, let me ask you then, what's the most challenging thing happening at South Sevier High School as we speak?
I think it is just trying to change. We have a really great culture in our school, but we have a lot of, where we come from, a small area. People are very loyal. They're very, rivalries run deep, and sometimes not so much with athletes anymore, but with their parents. And so I think one of the biggest challenges that we're dealing is how to create this positive athletic culture that officials want to come and be a part of in our gym, in our area, because people are respectful and kind. And that's kind of one of the things that we're working on right now.
That's very good. On that note, that wraps it up for this edition of the UIAAA Connection. Again, our guest today has been Amy Robinson, Certified Athletic Administrator, the Director of Athletics at South Sevier High School. Thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
For our listeners, we hope you tune in again next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection.